Millions of years ago, our planet looked a lot different. Massive marine reptiles underwater, dinosaurs on land, and a whole other gang up in the sky, the pterosaurs. Now trust me when I say that they were the kings of the sky, but in this video, we're here to talk about their top dog, or the greatest flying creature ever, if you will, the mighty Quetzalcoatlus. This beast made its grand entrance around 70 million years ago, and it had wings that could cover an entire tennis court. Just imagine stumbling upon it in 2024. I'll tell you what you'll feel: sheer fear. That's right, paleontologists were absolutely shook by its massive size. They even named it after an Aztec feathered serpent god, and it also carries the fancy species name Northropi as a nod to a big aircraft company founder. Scientists were arguing left and right about just how big this reptile really was. At first they thought its wingspan was a whopping 21 meters, wider than an F-22 fighter jet. But turns out they may have exaggerated a bit. Nowadays, scientists think it was more like 10 to 12 meters wide. Still, massive enough to dwarf an F-16. And get this, when it was on the ground, it stood as tall as a 3-story building. Now let's talk about how heavy this big bird really was. Recent studies are tossing around the idea that it weighed about as much as your average grizzly bear. But there's also a smaller sidekick in the story, the lesser-known Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni. It's about 55% smaller in wingspan and significantly lighter. Still cool, but not stealing the heavyweight title like its larger buddy. Although, I've got to tell you, Quetzalcoatlus does face some competition for the largest ever title. Meet Hatzegopteryx, a colossal pterosaur from Europe. It had a similar wingspan, maybe a tad smaller, but it made up for it in the weight department, being stockier and owning a bigger skull. But hey, Quetzalcoatlus is still the biggest out of all North American pterosaurs. There's been a bit of back and forth in the estimates of its weight. Older studies tossed around a slim 70 kilograms, about 150 pounds, for a 10-meter individual. That's lighter than you might expect. But recent studies have cranked up the numbers. Since the 2000s, the general estimate is more in the range of 200 to 250 kilograms, around 440 to 550 pounds. But the real question is, how did this giant guy fly? In 2010, some scientists thought it was too hefty for flight and lived its life on the ground. However, most paleontologists think it was a high flyer, and here's how they imagine it. It starts off with short bursts of powered flight, then a smooth transition to soaring at a cool 130 kilometers per hour, which translates to 80 miles per hour. Not everyone's on the same page though. Some think it could only manage short flights. Either way, we all agree that when Quetzalcoatlus did take to the skies, it was a force to be reckoned with, thanks to its robust breastbone and those powerful hind legs that gave it a boost into the air. After scientists uncovered this giant pterosaur, the big question was not just how it flew, but also what it chowed down on. Back in the early days, the idea was that the Quetzalcoatlus wasn't into seafood. Specimens were found far from the coastline, so the thought was it might be a big-time scavenger, feeding on the leftovers of dead sauropods. This scavenger theory held its ground until the late 90s, when a new hypothesis fluttered in. Researchers started thinking Quetzalcoatlus was more of a skimmer. Not the ice cream kind, but the fishing kind. And there's some evidence to back it up, all right. I mean, just look at its beak, longer than the average human, with a little bend at the bottom. This design creates a gap between the upper and lower jaw, making it a challenge to strip flesh from carcasses. So, what do you think? Maybe this beak was crafted for nabbing fish instead. Its long neck and toothless grin also adds weight to the fishy theory. But there are a couple of curveballs. First off, remember how Quetzalcoatlus was basically an inland explorer? Yeah, not exactly the beach bum type. And then there's the whole drag situation. Flapping those massive wings through water would be like trying to run a marathon in a swimming pool, which is, well, not efficient. So, back to the drawing board went the paleontologists, until 2008, when a fresh theory swooped in. Perhaps Quetzalcoatlus used to hunt down small critters like mammals, lizards, and maybe even pint-sized dinosaurs on land. And honestly, with its size and aerial skills, Quetzalcoatlus probably didn't have to stress too much about becoming somebody else's lunch while on the ground. But they believed it didn't just stick to land. but also used to hit up streams and ponds for some seafood. This new theory is gaining some serious traction. I mean, think about it. Quetzalcoatlus conserving energy on land, chilling near water sources, and only scavenging when it feels like it. Plus, those specialized limbs are literally built for walking. Additionally, there's a fascinating thought that Quetzalcoatlus may have taken short flights to scout for prey and scope out prime feeding spots. While this idea seems to be the reigning champ for now, the debate over Quetzalcoatlus's dining preferences goes on. However, regardless of its menu choices, one thing's for sure: this pterosaur was a major player in its ecosystem, especially in what we now call Texas. Back in the day, Texas boasted sparse forests, freshwater ponds, and rivers, with dry spells that the Quetzalcoatlus likely tackled with its aerial skills to find water. It wasn't flying solo in its domain though. Alongside this giant flying reptile, there was a whole cast of characters, from Alamosaurus to Bravoceratops and a bunch of other dinos. There's even speculation that it rubbed feathers with the likes of Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops, although more research is needed to confirm this list. While some claim sightings of Quetzalcoatlus in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana, the jury's still out until a proper diagnosis of the fossils is done. If true, it means this legendary flyer shared the skies with some of the most iconic dinosaurs of all time. But to tell you the truth, despite its prominent status in popular culture, Quetzalcoatlus remains a mysterious figure in the realm of paleontology. Fossils of its primary species have always been scarce, making the reconstruction of its appearance a challenging task. However, to overcome this limitation, scientists have relied on information gathered from its close relatives for a more comprehensive understanding. But one noteworthy limitation lies in the scarcity of the skull of Q. northropi, leaving a critical gap in our knowledge. So, in order to address this, researchers have turned to the skull of another species within the Quetzalcoatlus genus, often referred to as Quetzalcoatlus sp, to complete the reconstructions. This blending of features from two different species, albeit closely related, introduces a level of uncertainty in our visualizations of Quetzalcoatlus. Thus, while the creature enjoys fame in popular culture, its true appearance remains a composite creation, pieced together from the limited fossil record and the characteristics of its relatives. However, if we talk about its habitat and the environment, it probably had quite the range given its colossal wingspan and remarkable flight capabilities. Scientists' best guess is that it inhabited diverse environments during the late Cretaceous period, and its preferred spots included coastal plains and inland areas, offering a range of landscapes to explore for food. The late Cretaceous environment itself was teeming with life, characterized by lush vegetation and a diverse array of dinosaur species. Finally, the extinction of Quetzalcoatlus, like many prehistoric creatures, remains a bit of a mystery. However, scientists have put forward several theories to explain the disappearance of this legendary animal. One big idea is that a giant asteroid smacked into Earth, making a huge crater in Mexico. This epic collision happened at the end of the dinosaur era and probably messed up the environment big time, making life tough for Quetzalcoatlus. Changes in Earth's climate, along with lots of competition from other creatures, might have also given it a hard time. Plus, volcanoes were erupting like crazy back then, so who knows, maybe it got caught up in one of those. In the end, Quetzalcoatlus, with its colossal wingspan and larger than a 3-story building presence, is a true prehistoric wonder. In fact, it holds the record of being one of the largest flying creatures to ever grace the sky. And now that you know everything there is to know about this amazing creature, what are your thoughts on it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Go on, hit that subscribe button.